All right. You are now rocking with the best, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to, I guess, our second inaugural episode of the And New Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, your host, KD Drummond, and we are here with the four horsemen. Let me introduce them one by one. We have the incomparable Patrick No C Walker. Say what's up to the people, Pat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I know it's been a while since you heard that, but we are back in the building and better than ever, and we're bringing you wrestling coverage like you've never seen before. Each one of the gentlemen that you're looking at right now is capable individually of blowing your head off with their coverage and their ability and their creativity, but then you put us all together.
Dangerous.
Magic.
Dangerous.
Felonious, if you will.
Next up on the agenda is the one and only Mr. Josh Rodriguez. Say what's up to the people, JR.
Josh Rodriguez of Film School University. You may know me from There Are Too Many Movies, a movie podcast. And here I am talking about pro wrestling with my boys, Patrick, KD, and Will. I appreciate you guys having me on.
And last but certainly not least is the man that puts all of this video stuff together, the maestro, the one and only Will Skywalker Steele. Say what's up, Will.
Finally. I said, finally. And New Wrestling has come back to YouTube and everywhere else, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of things. All these places, come check us out, man. This is going to be amazing, an amazing journey, an amazing ride, and I'm excited to do it with some of the best people out here talking wrestling.
Absolutely. Now, we have andnewwrestling.com. If you are watching us on YouTube right now, make sure that you are going over and bookmarking and make it your homepage. andnewwrestling.com. You are going to get all of the latest videos, all of the latest articles as we're rocking. Obviously, me and Pat, we come from a writer's background. We're, bringing some things along when it comes to being able to read everything, the previews, the recaps, all the news, everything that you need to know. All the articles will be there. Obviously, if you want to follow us on social media, we have TikTok, we have Twitter. Both of those are And New Wrestling. If you're on Instagram, it's And New Wrestling Pod. So again, subscribe, follow, smash the notifications button so you don't miss anything, because we are going to bring you everything that you could possibly want to know about the WWE, eventually the AEW, and some other things when it comes to this wrestling world. And we are going to start it off, as we should, talking about the return of Rhea Ripley. Last night on Monday Night Raw, we saw, after weeks and weeks of Liv Morgan playing in her face, well, not in her face because she was never there, but playing in her area with Dirty Dom Mysterio, Rhea finally had enough, said enough was enough, and came out on Monday Night Raw. So I'm going to turn that over to you, No C. Talk to us about what we saw. Talk to us about what you're thinking about the return of Rhea Ripley.
Mami is back. Mami is back.
Yeah.
Listen, it was foreshadowed the entire episode. Right. You talk about Damian Priest getting the phone call, having the ear-to-ear grin. A little bit later in the show, talking about that someone was going to show up and Dom may or may not like it. There was even a little bit of an Easter egg, come to find out, with Zelina Vega that kind of foreshadowed the potential coming of Rhea Ripley. And the way they did it, the way they orchestrated that, shouts out to Triple H, Paul Levesque, because he waited until the episode was damn near going off the air. It could not have gotten more scintillating, more hot between Dom and Liv at that moment. She being Liv Morgan, finally helps Dominic defeat his quote-unquote deadbeat dad, his first victory over Rey Mysterio. Of course, he's then overcome with emotion. Liv takes advantage of that. She jumps on him. He falls onto her, and he's folding. He's folding like a lawn chair under Fat Albert's weight. And right when it happens, right when he's about to kiss her, Rhea Ripley is in the building, ladies and gentlemen, and the look on the face of Dom, the look on the face of Liv, as if they had just seen a ghost. And yes, you did see a ghost, but this one is going to kill you both dead. But post credits, went back and looked at some of the previously unreleased footage. Liv Morgan, masterful. Like I said in the teaser, this is why her stock is up. Yes, she hightailed it the hell out of Ottawa, hell out of that ring, but she was behind the curtain, peeking, smirking, sniggling and giggling at how Dom was in so much trouble in the ring with Rhea Ripley. It's masterful how it's done, how it's been done with the Liv Morgan storyline versus Rhea Ripley. And now that Rhea is back, she's coming back to a Judgment Day that's basically in shambles, right? Dom now is questioning his own loyalty, as we saw in real time.
Right.
Has to plead for forgiveness. Whose side is he on? Finn Balor, JD McDonough. Yeah, they're the tag team champions. You know why? Because of Liv Morgan, right? So Liv has basically just detonated the entirety of the Judgment Day, and it was supposed to be in the hands of Damian Priest. So that means Damian's going to have to answer to Rhea Ripley. But does Damian care to answer to Rhea Ripley? Because in his words, I'm the champ. They need me a hell of a lot more than I need them. Rhea heard that as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah, let me interject.
Mami's
Let me interject because Damian has bigger fish to fry than worried about Judgment Day. He needs to learn how to not botch a match. Because what we saw,
maybe kick out when you're supposed to kick out, Damian.
So I rewatched the PLE, right? Because I wanted to make sure that I was seeing what I was seeing, right? Newbie eyes, and I'm getting my feet wet and everything. Like, dude literally had to be coached through the match by the ref. And we all know, the ref is there to kind of keep things moving along or whatever. Right. But he clearly, I don't know if he was just tired, out of breath, whatever the case may be, but he had an absolute horrible performance. So I am all for them looking to kind of just kind of morph that performance, that botch, into part of the disdain that they're going to have for the Judgment Day. I would love to see how this is going to be booked over the next month as we're moving towards SummerSlam. What do you think, Steele?
So as you guys are talking, I was just thinking, I had to write this down. Is this Liv's best work? And I don't think that's even a question. Yes. I think it is. And also, is she going to overshadow Rhea? Because this work right now that she's doing is phenomenal, man. And I don't know that there's been a better story in the women's division in quite some time. And obviously she has an assist because of Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day, but she is playing this masterfully. And I'm just excited to see where this goes. As for Damian Priest, we talked about this in the teaser. It's time, and I don't think it's going to take long here, at SummerSlam. But he's done what he can do, and it's just time to move forward. And look, they loved him. He did an excellent job the year leading up to it. Bad Bunny and all that whole situation. He was fantastic, and he's okay in the ring, but he's been real sloppy lately. And Josh, I don't know if you noticed, it's not just this past PLE. The previous one, granted he slipped, right? That's not his fault, but it was other odd spots there, and this championship division has some dudes who can go in that ring. And if you can't go with them, bye.
Yeah. The thing with Damian Priest, at least in my opinion, I don't like him on the mic. And I don't know if this is like a me thing, but whenever I hear people...
It's not a me thing. I mean, it's not
whenever he's talking, he's talking very he has his accent that he's doing. And then every third word has to be in Spanish. So it's just like, what I think we should do, mírale, is, dude, this isn't authentic. This is just a put on that you're doing to satisfy your culture. I understand where he's coming from. He wants to, have that sort of
celebrate it. Yeah,
he wants to celebrate it for sure, no doubt. But he was exposed at Money in the Bank.
Zelina doesn't do that though.
He doesn't do that. At the last PLE, he was okay. He was fine. But you have him going up against an opponent in the last two PLEs where he can lean on better in-ring talent, especially Money in the Bank, where he's fighting Seth Rollins, a rusty Seth Rollins at that, who still carries the match and looks better than Damian Priest, who has not been on IR for 3 months. That to me was revealing, and especially with the botched finish, where it was crucial to have that finish go the way that it did to incorporate Drew, then to incorporate CM Punk. It is all overshadowed by how terribly he performed in that match.
Yeah.
Good. Really, it was overshadowed because it wasn't.
It was a good thing it was overshadowed. Thankfully, there was enough there to kind of like take the sting off of how bad that was. Yeah. He couldn't even be carried by rusty Seth Rollins. But
we need to give a shout out to Seth, because that,
absolutely,
like me coming back to wrestling and seeing how it's progressed, how the booking has progressed, how the storytelling has progressed. Seth taking a moment, seeing that his opponent was not doing his job and him berating him. Get up, Damian. This is how you're supposed to fight, blah, blah, blah. Like giving him that pause to try to get his act together, which he still couldn't do. But just seeing his professionalism in the ring in that moment, hats off to him for that, because that really stood out for me as somebody who's just kind of coming back to wrestling and seeing how all the mechanisms work. His
ring psychology is amazing.
Well, one thing you're gonna get from Seth Rollins always is an A1 effort 100% of the time. I mean, this is a guy whose knee was basically wrecked in WrestleMania, and he still went out there and made sure that the finish to Cody finishing his story went exactly as planned, as far as him taking the chair to the back from Roman Reigns. His knee was wrecked at that point. His knee was not completely healthy when he was going up against Drew McIntyre in that match. And of course, he dropped the belt at that time. But even then, on a bad knee and a bum back, Seth Rollins will always give you a fantastic match. But the fact that, to Josh's point, the fact that this is a guy who's been rehabbing for 90 days, give or take, and he comes back and he has to carry the champion. He has to carry the incumbent champion in the match. Like that cannot happen. But Priest has not put on the best showing as after getting that belt. He's just not. And it kind of ironically, it kind of goes to Drew McIntyre's point about how irrelevant, not necessarily relevant, but how poor of a choice it is to keep the men's Money in the Bank briefcase going, because while the women's Money in the Bank briefcase over the past several years, it just keeps going up in value in the way that storyline unfolds. Here we have the latest edition of the men's Money in the Bank briefcase, whether it be Drew cashing it in and, against, I'm sorry, not Drew, but Damian cashing it in against Drew after he took, the arm brace to the head from CM Punk. And then now he has this mid at best run as a champion, right? But then you now have Drew, who comes in and he cashes in the same day, and it's basically rendered moot by CM Punk, which I think, and I said this to a couple of you guys, I think that was Triple H playing 4D chess and just getting the men's briefcase out of the way, because I don't think the WWE is a fan of the men's briefcase.
It's just, how do you top WrestleMania cash in from last year? I think it sets it back to zero and gives them an opportunity to use what they have in front of them: King of the Ring, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble, to really have, you create number one contender spots out of those PLEs. Throwing a Money in the Bank briefcase in the mix might be tough.
I view it differently.
Especially when you have John Cena in the mix now too. Like, is he getting 17? So, there's just a lot to consider when it comes to like number one contender matches.
If he gets that before the Viper gets 15, I riot.
Well, what about enough? How about he gets 17 man. And then Viper takes off? Here's why I push back on the briefcase. I think the briefcase should be used to help elevate a rising star. You didn't even have to use it on the title if you don't want to. Because let's be real, Cody's not losing that championship in no time soon. So you're not cashing in on Cody. This World Championship, I believe is what they're calling. They keep switching all up. The World Heavyweight Championship. Right.
This one right here.
That one right there. That one.
I took it off Priest myself. Enough is enough.
Enough. Probably could have.
He didn't kick out.
Could have.
He forgot to kick out. Man. That's what happens. That's why Pat won. This is like a hardcore title. He got it, but he didn't sleep. So like I get it. The Cody Championship, you're not taking. This championship though, you could play around with it, or you could, whether it was Jey Uso, whether it's LA Knight, whether it's Carmelo, whoever, right? You could use it to build some momentum for that character, a la, I almost said Trish Stratus, Tiffany Stratton.
I almost make that mistake a lot too.
Yes, Tiffany Stratton. They use that to elevate her. Fight. I don't think they're going to have her cashing in. I think soon. I think they'll use it to elevate it. So for me, I was kind of disappointed when McIntyre cashed it and lost, which we knew he was going to do. Right. Me personally would have rather had Punk come out and push him off the ladder, and now whoever else you want to climb up and get it, and now you use that.
Here's my thoughts on that. And you're 100% right as far as I agree that it needs to be used to elevate talent, a la Liv Morgan winning and cashing in the same day and getting the belt, right? EO, for example. And the way they played the EO storyline, she didn't cash it immediately. But the way that when she got it and she was worthy.
Crazy pop, by the way.
But But when you look at it from the men's standpoint, you got to look at the contestants, right? Look at the contenders who were in it. So Carmelo Hayes has been mid since being drafted. Okay, it's too. He doesn't deserve to have the money in the bank power in his hands right now. Not quite yet. Okay,
right.
LA Knight doesn't need it because they're already building for him versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam. Okay, Chad Gable, they need to figure out some things, but then Chad would be going more so for Cody, but they're not going to take that belt off of Cody right now. So I say all of that to say, who either deserves the briefcase as far as they've got the work put in, Carmelo does not, or you look at it from the standpoint of if Gable won the briefcase, who does he cash it in on? If Jey Uso won it, who does he cash it in on? Because I think Jey, if the question is, well, you could have given it to Jey, and I predicted Jey would win, but then I started thinking about it after the fact when he didn't win. I was like, well, he's going to get involved in the Civil War anyway.
Right.
Right. And he doesn't, he's over. He doesn't need a title right now.
He's super over.
But Jey could have been one. LA Knight could have been very interesting. You know why? He technically wants Logan Paul, right? And from what we found out a few years ago is you can cash that in on outside titles and not just the heavyweight championships. In fact, I think LA Knight said, I will cash it in on you, Logan. So I would have loved for LA Knight to be on some just arrogant-ish, right? Some where he wins the briefcase and he says, I'm not surprising your punk ass, Logan. I want to set up this match at SummerSlam. Here's the contract, Triple H. Let's set this thing up. Oh, it would have been fantastic. Fantastic.
Or how about this? LA Knight should be the Intercontinental Champion anyway, but let me not get started on that.
I like this Logan Paul program, though. I don't know what it is. It kind of gives me light, Stone Cold, Brian Pillman.
I agree.
Vibes, you know?
Problem though is, number one, I love the bookings for LA Knight. I will say that because you look at the beef with AJ Styles and how LA Knight took it back. He took it back to the Attitude Era, to the Steve Austin era. He's at your house. He's pulling up. He's at your front door. Police have to haul him off. That I love that. I love the fact they're doing that with him. So you go from a feud with AJ Styles to a feud with Logan Paul, and in between, kind of like overlap, you're basically outshining Carmelo Hayes. Now, this is why I say Carmelo Hayes has been mid. Number one, his bookings have been mid. I think they tried too soon to get him over by putting him in the match with Cody Rhodes on the night that he got drafted.
Wild. Yeah, that was wild.
Right? So I see what they were trying to do, but they couldn't pull it off. And then ever since then, it's just been, it was like loss, win, but it was okay. And then his promos, he was killing promos at NXT, but I think that he needs to figure. Yeah, he needs to figure out. Yeah, he needs to figure out that from a WWE Raw standpoint, this is the big leagues. Like
he might need his boy.
Listen, when you're facing LA Knight in a mic promo and you can't even get your promo right because you say LA Knight, why would LA Knight want to face LA Knight? And then LA Knight absolutely buries
Fixed
you.
It for him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's a bad look, bro. That's a bad look.
Yeah.
They're gonna treat him like Ricochet. I feel like he's gonna fall in line to that sort of role with the company going forward, unless he does step up his mic skills going forward.
Look out!
Yeah,
look out
I think
for
he
Trick.
definitely has work to do there.
Look out for Trick. I don't think they're going to make the same mistake with Trick. So they might bring him back with Carmelo on the main roster, and these guys do some tag team stuff, or because Trick's a star now, he can't be his bodyguard no more.
Right. So y'all learn me up. Is the draft the only opportunity that we're going to see Trick? Like we have to wait until next year before Trick gets in WWE, or would they elevate him outside of that?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, it could be a Royal Rumble appearance. You saw them do the crossover with Jordan Grace from TNA at Royal Rumble, so they're not adverse to that. But you can also see a situation where, let's say Nathan Frazier, for example, half of the NXT Tag Team Championship. He's been doing some matches with WWE Speed, and they'll move them around from brand to brand. And if you are really starting to kind of get over and they want to help push you to get over, although your home base might be NXT, Michin is a perfect example. Michin is a fantastic example. Her home base is NXT, but she does a hell of a lot of work lately on Raw and SmackDown. So they'll move you around. The draft is really just all about establishing what your home base is going to be.
Got you. All right, let's circle. Let's bring it back around. Let's return to the Money in the Bank because I know everybody has thoughts about the quality of this PLE compared to others. I did while I was watching it. I was doing quick grades on each of the matches. I gave the men's ladder match. I gave him an 85 out of 100. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. I gave it a 78. The John Cena announcement. I gave it a 92 just because it was great to see John Cena, and then he just pulled the rug under you and was like, "This is it." And then he was like, "No, it's not it right now. It's it." In December of 2025,
it's like
right?
13 months from now.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Right. It was a roller coaster, right?
It's kind of it.
So I gave him a 92 for that.
Same, but same.
Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, I gave it a 63. Like, I mean, I almost gave it a 50. It was that bad of a match for me.
You should have.
I should have. I would probably. I'm grading on a curve. I'm grading on,
and the whole 50 would have gone to Seth.
Exactly. The women's ladder match, 99. Like, okay, so I'm going to break before I even get to the Bloodline Cody RKO. The way that I was so impressed with what the women did with the ladders. First of all, ladder matches are by far, out of everything I've seen, and I haven't seen that much wrestling in the last couple of years, but by far, that was great. Like, it was just, I mean, I don't even have any, like, I have 10-cent words that I can use. It was great to watch all of the action. Like, even the misses, even the botches, where Zoe almost cracked her skull on the side of the joint. Like, it was wild to watch them go for it. So they got a 99. Bloodline versus Cody and RKO, I gave it a 75. It was kind of it was decent, but overall I wasn't as impressed with this PLE as I thought I would be. What are y'all thoughts on it?
I'll go first. I think, like you said, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match was the match of the night. They really blew it out of the park. Nobody could really touch their match. And a big part of that, and I've kind of teased this even on Twitter, is like the more and more I see from Lyra Valkyria, I'm just obsessed with her in-ring ability. And she does have like some choppy spots here or there, but overall, like, she's a stiff worker. Her plus Io Sky, they were mauling each other. There were like the boots that she was throwing while Lyra was like dangling from the ladder, like just boots straight to the head. Yes. Just love that. I love how stiff they both work. And on top of that, you have Chelsea Green, who is so over. Sorry, I didn't say her name right. Patrick, did you want to help me with that one?
Chelsea Green.
There you go. Yeah, that's
my girl, man.
She's so incredibly over, but I liked them not giving her the Money in the Bank briefcase because it just builds her underdog character even more. And
I don't care what Pat's talking about.
I know.
I don't like that they didn't give Chelsea.
But all of the social that she's been doing since losing the Money in the Bank ladder match has been like S tier, like so interesting, and like she's just a fun character to root for. Just how she handled that, and especially how she handled that bump too, going into both tables from the tallest ladder in the ring. She just absolutely murdered that. And then I think it's the right choice to have Tiffany Stratton take that briefcase and set up a potential Trish Stratus match. It's I'm
raise your hand if you predicted Tiff. If you predicted Tiffy time, raise your hand.
Yes, I did.
Always Tiffy time.
What's that thing that Eminem said? One of these men does not have his hand up.
You know what? I'm fine with that because Tobey Maguire was bit by a spider. But see, me, it was a goat. And I got some other matches correct. So I'm not tripping off of this
You
one.
did. Right? I was keeping track. I think you ended up winning. You had the most correct.
The war, not the battle. And I believe Chelsea Green is going to win the war against Tiffany.
Did you pick Tiffany Stratton?
No.
Okay, go.
Listen, I'm fine. We can make this a fatal four-way. It's cool. That's what this is turning into, a fatal four-way. Completely fine. I will agree that 100%. I think the women's match, I'm not going to say stole the show, but had the best match of the night. The reason I wouldn't say it stole the show is because outcome notwithstanding, the men's ladder match was a banger as well. It was an absolute banger. What kind of fogged that up was the outcome with Drew taking it. So that's where we agree that shouldn't have been the outcome. But prior to that, the match itself was an absolute banger. But, when it comes to the women's match, they had the total package, right? Everybody was going at each other. The contenders were all, the work was stiff. And then you had like these inner rivalries, right? So like Io Sky versus Lyra Valkyria, that goes back to Queen of the Ring tournament when Valkyria knocked Io out of the tournament, and that's what kind of started Io Sky's dissension within her ranks of damage control, so to speak. So I do not think, and I said this on Twitter, I don't think that it was the wrong decision. I'm completely fine with Tiffany Stratton getting the briefcase because it just makes sense. My thing was that it makes sense as well if Chelsea was able to get that briefcase because she is also so over. Now, she doesn't have I'll put it this way. She hasn't been able to demonstrate the in-ring ability that Tiffany has. And I think a lot of that also goes to the fact that, let's just be honest, Tiffany came in as an athlete, right? She came in with gymnastic
Olympic
ability.
Star,
She's a natural, man.
So there's that. And the fact that she has the look, she has the character that's completely going over well, and she has the mic work. Chelsea has the mic work, she has the character, but she doesn't necessarily have the athleticism, but she does have 10 years in the game. Okay, and that's kind of where I feel like it's time for a true solo push for Chelsea, because most of her success has come when she's been tied to somebody and often making that person look good. Right. So whether it have been Sonya Deville and providing that yin yang balance, the darkness of Sonya with the lightheartedness of Chelsea Green, Sonya tears her ACL, Piper Niven comes in, then it was the dark nature of Piper Niven, Chelsea Green. Well, Niven couldn't get the job done at Clash at the Castle. And now I think this is a perfect opportunity for Chelsea Green to get the briefcase. And I think she would have been if not slightly more entertaining with that briefcase than Tiffany would have been.
I agree, and I also think that I think that Chelsea Green kind of fills this is gonna be a pause moment. She fills that like Bella Twins hole where it's like it's not it's I know. I get it.
Lucky her.
But it's like when was the last time we had women's wrestlers that were like that, where it was sort of not necessarily the in-ring ability, but the characters within themselves to kind of be the underdogs at every turn and like be entertaining outside of the ring, if that makes sense.
Why would that be a pause moment, by the way? I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Filling the Bella Twin holes?
It's not a
pause.
It's a allusion to something that might be adult content.
It's an innuendo.
It's an innuendo. I ain't pausing the Bella Twins holes. I'm just saying. I'm just not doing that. I'm not gonna pause. But anyway, go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
Josh is ready for Netflix.
Yes, absolutely.
He's not Fox Network right now. He's going straight to Netflix. Straight to Netflix.
Hey, Fox would have bleeped out that whole thing. It
would have blacked us all.
Everything.
Terrible. My bad, Josh. I just had a delayed reaction.
You're good. No, but I mean, when was the last time you saw characters like the Bella Twins that were sort of that underdog? Because the women's division is just so stacked with in-ring talent that I don't know that you have that many characters like Chelsea Green.
And what's funny is that not only is the women's division stacked across all three brands, but the developmental brand in NXT arguably has the best locker room of ladies as far as talent is concerned. So then you start wondering, when do women like Sol Ruka get called up? When does Roxanne Perez get called up?
Yeah.
Right. When does Lola Vice get called up after this rematch and she takes the belt off of Roxanne Perez, which I believe
is happening.
And it goes from there. Jada Parker, fantastic in ring and even better on the mic. Metaphor, right?
They're deep, man.
Lash Legend. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
So you have NXT as a brand, and nothing taken away from the men, because obviously Trick Williams and Ethan Page and Javon Evans is a fucking maniac. Yeah. And I cannot get enough of the young OG. So the men's division is stout. Shawn Michaels is cooking up something special over there. But when we talk about the ladies, the fact that they're that stout, but then the ladies, and I'm all in on pause on Obafemi. I'm all in 100%. Okay, that's a pause. That's a pause. Shouts out to the women's division across all three WWE brands, because they are bringing the absolute smoke. They're carrying PLEs. This isn't the first PLE they've carried. Go back and look at Elimination Chamber and see who carried that. It was the women, and it was Rhea, and it was Nia, and
it's no surprise the men have to keep up at this point.
Yeah,
right. So this is something that I was thinking about while I was watching the women's ladder match. Again, I age myself all the time. I'm proud that I even made it to where I am right now as far as my age. I grew up when it used to be NWA, WWF, Glow, and Powerful Women's Wrestling, right? There was entire leagues because they would never, like, if you were a woman in the other leagues, you were a manager, right? You didn't actually get to wrestle in the other leagues. And obviously it's great that it all came together. But am I wrong in thinking that they could have an entire women's
they could
promotion?
Oh yeah,
and it would fly. Like, I would watch that over the men 9 times out of 10.
100%.
Me personally, but I can see a lot of people doing that.
You just answered your own question as to why they wouldn't do it, because there would be people who would stop watching the men and just focus on the women. Yeah. So yeah, like you, Katie.
Work though. It would work.
But I just say, like you, Katie.
Absolutely. Because I'm a lot more forgiving when a punch doesn't land and it's the women in the ring. And when I see it with the dudes,
it's fine when it's Bianca and Jade and it's a bit of a botch. Or when it's Damian Priest with the botch.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, when it's Damian Priest sitting here.
Absolutely.
Bianca or Jade does it just like, oh, it's okay. Damian does it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like, oh no, she'll get it next time. She all right, So all right. So one of the things that we saw in the midst of everything in the PLE obviously was the return of John Cena. We had Trish Stratus, who was out there as the hostess with the mostest, as she called it, and she of course introduced her John Cena, who came out with a towel, and the time is now. But not really now. It's kind of in the future after he does this PLE and then that PLE. And then he made an open call for any wrestler that wants to be booked with him to stake a claim. And then he said, after WrestleMania, I'll probably be in 30 to 40 matches. So John Cena is on a goodbye tour, which is going to give all of the fans an opportunity to get out to their local arena, get to the PLEs, witness him for the last time in the ring in person, which is actually a phenomenal rollout by Triple H. I love the way, and he actually gave credit to John Cena for coming up with the idea that they're going to work through in order to do this. So talk to me about what your thoughts are about John Cena's career to this point, 16 championships. Is he the best ever? Or do you have that spot reserved for somebody else?
I think if you're a fan of wrestling from the 90s on, you have to put him in the Mount Rushmore. But I think there's so many great wrestlers before him that it's hard to do that. And it's like, it's either you have Hulk Hogan or you have John Cena. It's like those are the two wrestlers that were able to exceed and reach that sect of audience, the kids. Like reach out to the kids and be able to become greater than just a professional wrestler, if that makes sense. It's iconic in that way. So I think in the Mount Rushmore, you either have Hulk Hogan or you have John Cena, and then you have the other guys that actually make wrestling what it is. And I would lean towards John Cena. I think he did more. And just think about the Make-A-Wish, the most Make-A-Wishes ever of any human being, any entertainer. His career is just legendary. It's unprecedented what they're doing with the farewell tour, and well deserved, man.
I think you have to put your emotions aside when it comes to John Cena, because there's people who do not like Cena, right? The wrestler, and I'm not saying I don't like Cena. I just don't have him as my GOAT. I don't even have him close to the GOAT. However, I do understand that you almost have to always put him up there in the Mount Rushmore because of what he did for the industry, right?
100%.
Like, is he the best in the ring? Absolutely not. Is he one of the best on the mic? Yes, he is. Is he one of the best superstar personalities, characters? Yes. Is he the total package per se? I think there's other superstars that were better total packages, but there's no superstar that was able to carry an era like the PG era, like a John Cena. I don't know if anybody could have done that. And for him to switch from Dr. Thugonomics to this, PG, eat your vitamins, Hulk Hogan of this era, that's basically what he really was, with some more swag, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to leave him off for that manner. Now, you talk about favorites. He wouldn't be on my favorites of Mount Rushmore. But when you said Hogan or John Cena, I don't know how you leave either off. Hogan, because come on, I'm not a fan
racism.
of
that's the only reason.
Racism, right? I'm not a fan of the person.
That'll do it.
I'm not a fan of the person. But again, removing my emotions, just talking about the industry. You're not talking about the WWE right now without Hulk Hogan. And are you really talking about you can't mention WWE PG, I'm sorry, not PG era, because I'm giving them credit for that. You can't talk about them prior to the PG era, the Ruthless Aggression era. You can't mention it without John Cena. So, shouts out to his career. Phenomenal. Would not shock me if somehow, some way, and I think this is another reason why I think somebody should have won Money in the Bank. If he won the 17th championship, it then got cashed in immediately and lost it right then and there. Yeah, it would have been poetic way to send him out.
That'd have been a great book.
John Cena goes without saying, one of the best to ever do it. And like you gentlemen so eloquently laid out for everybody, there are layers to this conversation when you're talking about the greatest of all time. So the moniker is one thing. The moniker of him coming out being, the greatest of all time, John Cena, that's the moniker. Okay? That's
WWE pushing that.
Yeah, completely fine. I'm not buying it, but they're more than welcome to sell it. Okay. He's not one of my top 5, might not even make my top 10. And I know that comment's going to piss a lot of people off. You live, I promise you'll go to sleep tonight.
Clipping that.
All right. At the end of the day, here's my problem with those that say he's the greatest of all time. Josh makes an excellent point. If you're talking about Mount Rushmore, I don't know how many heads people think are on Mount Rushmore, but it ain't 10, it ain't 15, it's only 4. Okay. So with that being said, and not just because that poster is behind me, and it's more so behind me because of Ultimate Warrior, rest in peace. But when you're talking about Hulk Hogan or John Cena, and I had this conversation on Twitter a couple of days ago, in that as a human being, John Cena is running laps around Hulk Hogan. Not even up for discussion.
Right.
As a human being, Terry is a piece of shit.
Yes.
Okay. That aside,
but he's selling beer now, so he's redeemed himself,
and he's firing black influencers. By the way, I mean, like he's
an awful person.
That emotion aside, or you talk about contribution to sports entertainment. When we were younger, particularly to myself and Katie as well, it was Hulkamania, right? It was Hulkamania, and it was about. Yeah, for me. But at the same time, think about it. WrestleMania, Hulk versus Andre the Giant.
Right,
he was
of course.
The first person to slam Andre the Giant. Like this stuff like this. Like that version of Hulk when I was younger and also didn't know he was a piece of shit had me getting my ass whooped because I would rip shirts. and Mom Dukes wasn't feeling that shit at all. Right. And that's back then when we actually got hands put on us. So he had me tearing through apparel. I was so excited about Hulkamania. And I mean, I say all of that to say, I never felt that way about John Cena. And granted, it was a different version of me, right? It was an adult version of me, younger adult, but still an adult version of me. So I wasn't going to tear, I pay for them shirts. I ain't, no.
Right.
Your Hulkamania age, the age of your Hulkamania, there are fans that are like that for Cena, and they ride.
But also look at the impact of Hulk Hogan from a WCW/WWF/WWE standpoint.
The industry.
Hulk Hogan, the industry. John Cena changed, and it changed his demeanor from thugonomics to went to the PG era and never give up. Commendable. Not everybody can do that, and carried the company.
Yes.
Right through that PG-13 era. After being one of the leads, if not the lead of the Ruthless Aggression era, right? But that being said, if you sit back and you ask yourself who impacted the entire industry like Hulk Hogan did, the answer is probably nobody. Because whether it was Hulkamania with WWF, and then when he showed up on Eric Bischoff's roster, unexpectedly, that changed the whole dynamic. Put WWF, the behemoth, on their heels, and then he goes completely against the grain and becomes the third man for NWO. And Hollywood Hogan, you talk about a successful heel turn. That is the biggest heel turn of all time, and it will not be equaled until Cody Rhodes does it. So,
if that.
Foreshadow.
No, it's
foreshadow.
So, my Mount Rushmore. It's already difficult for me to try to qualify who's going to be in there, because now I think Hulkamania is in there, or Hulk Hogan is in there, because if you look at the totality of his career, including Hollywood, then industry steerer. Okay, but then Ric Flair has to be in there, right? Now we only have 2 spots. Who you going with? I am putting Dwayne Johnson in my Mount Rushmore, and I am also putting Steve Austin in there. Somebody's getting left out.
Taker?
What is Taker, right? And see, now there's the problem. Taker, HBK, right? These are the conversations that have to be had before you start talking about, is John Cena the GOAT? Is he one of the GOATs? Is he one of the best of all time? Absolutely he is. And I'm not taking anything away from him. But if you start asking about favorites, I didn't even like the Thugonomics.
No, I tuned out.
Because
I felt
right, I was like, what is this Vanilla Ice? What in the Vanilla Ice is this? Spinning belts and whatnot. I was like, okay, can we slow down on the appropriation?
The appropriation pissed me off. Not gonna lie.
We slow down on the appropriation? It wasn't
I'm glad
until
I missed all of that.
It wasn't until the PG era. It wasn't until the PG era, the Never Give Up. And me being a huge mental health advocate, when he went to the Never Give Up, I was like, okay, this John Cena, this one I'm riding with. The Thugonomics and the spinning belts and taking this from Tony Yayo, and
like he had some bars and he was funny. But then
his mic game nasty.
After that fizzled off, I'm like,
now,
hey,
if we talking mic game, okay, you might put him in Mount Rushmore for mic game alone, right?
And I agree. And this is something that Katie had brought up whenever we first started like talking about doing the podcast. And we're watching, I don't know if we were watching a PLE, but Katie brought up like, oh, so nobody talks like The Rock and Stone Cold used to, right? Like nobody has that like mic ability. Not a single wrestler on the current roster has that. But when you heard John Cena pick up the mic for the first time and absolutely control the crowd at Money in the Bank, it's like, okay, there it is.
There it is.
There's that unquantifiable element that John Cena has and other of the Mount Rushmore conversation wrestlers have, where it's like once they pick up that mic, every single person is in the palm of their hands. You're not getting what chance during John Cena.
There's one active wrestler who is from this generation that can do that.
Go ahead. You're going to say LA Knight. He is by far the best on the mic out of all the
other way to really
younger wrestlers
to think about it too. You know, you've got the gong, right? You've got If You Smell. You've got the glass. When the trumpets hit, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter how old John Cena gets. It doesn't matter if he's not my favorite. I lose my shit when I hear the trumpets hit and I know John Cena is running down that ring.
Oh, you should have seen Kalen. He wasn't home over the weekend when the PLE was happening, so I told him we'll watch it when you get back. And when he saw John Cena come out, and this is, remember, Kalen's been watching wrestling for 4 weeks, but he knows who John Cena is. And he's every week, he's like, is John Cena going to wrestle this week? Is John Cena? Nothing. And
I have a 7-year-old who knows who he is.
He went ballistic. I mean, he's running around and new. Like, because of course, you know, he rocks with us, right? So he was doing his whole thing when John Cena came out. So I definitely understand what you guys were talking about, how the impact that he had beyond whether or not he was your favorite or beyond whether or not he was the best technical wrestler. His cachet in the sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, is phenomenal for this generation.
Yep. He is irreplaceable, period. Yeah. If you take John, and that's the question, if you take John Cena out of WWE and WWF, what does it look like? It looks completely different, and that's why he is definitely one of the GOATs. The rest is a conversation and it's subjective. That's not subjective.
All right. So we have, as always, as you know, Pat and I are very accustomed to, we have a rundown of things that we plan to get to every episode, and then we just start waxing poetic about the things that, you know, are really important to us. So we have to ship some of the topics that we have onto a future episode. And that's what we're going to have to do here. We're going to go ahead and tie a bow around this one. But real quick, I want to talk about Cody Rhodes being pinned by Solo Sikoa in that final match, the new Bloodline versus Cody and RKO. Did you believe that made Solo a viable singles wrestler as the Bloodline moves forward? Or was that just a one-off? Because I have my doubts about the dude.
Boy, stop. The hell it did. I don't want to hear that shit about him pinning Cody Rhodes when you look at how he was basically dragged and put on top of Cody Rhodes for the pin. He didn't pin him clean. He was half dead after getting his ass whooped outside the ring during that whole melee once the official went down and Fatu made sure the official stayed down, supposedly inadvertently. Get out of here. It's the Temu bloodline. Jacob Fatu is already more over than Solo Sikoa has ever been, and Jacob just got here. So
the Samoan werewolf.
The Temu bloodline is crazy.
Sikoa, get out of here. He doesn't qualify, in my opinion, to wash Cody's draws, let alone for me to sit here and say, oh, because his half dead ass was dragged on top of Cody and 1, 2, 3 from a discombobulated referee, that all of a sudden Solo Sikoa got more cachet and he's looking in the camera after the match. Someone acknowledge me. Acknowledge what?
Well, Pat.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you know who else
C
looked like
does
that?
not like Solo Sikoa.
But
Roman Reigns was getting dragged on dudes too, though, half passed out and getting the pin. I'm just saying.
This guy's coming back, and when he comes back, Solo is going to be cut in two, and that's just it. This was never this whole thing, and I love how it's being saved as far as, because when Solo Sikoa first tried the whole tribal chief thing, and we were just like, get out of here. How do you look Paul Heyman in the face and say, oh, losing has consequences? When's the last time you won? What about those consequences? And then that same Paul Heyman down the road, you look him in the face. You had a match, was it with Kevin or Randy? I can't recall. And you look at Paul and you're like, if I lose, I'm coming after you. You can't even win without Paul Heyman putting your foot on the rope to prevent a pinfall. But then suddenly, again, your carcass is dragged on top of Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, the story finisher, look, Dustin's brother, Dusty's son. And now you're the man.
Hold on. I had them in my ear. We're out of time. We're gonna have to go ahead and wrap up this conversation. This second inaugural episode of the And New Wrestling Podcast. We are going to be back. Of course, we are going to be back. Make sure that you are on YouTube and New Wrestling. Subscribe, smash that subscribe button, hit that notification so that you can make sure that you do not miss any of the new episodes. Check out andnewwrestling.com for our articles, for our videos, for everything, the content, the merch. Promise you are going to be along for a joyous ride as we do this thing that we do here. I am, of course, your host, KD Drummond. That is my man, $5 grand, 500 grand, 500 million, whatever you want to call it. Patrick No C Walker, the one and only Josh Rodriguez, and of course, the incomparable William Skywalker Steele. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We will be back with more. As soon as you blink your eyes, we'll have another episode up. We're out of here. Salute.
Peace.
And